My unemployed husband spent our $14,000 house down payment on toys while I worked overtime as a nurse. I sold his entire collection at 50% off. So when Brandon lost his job at the warehouse 8 months ago, I told him we'd be fine on my nurse salary while he looked for work. We'd been married 6 years and always supported each other. When I was in nursing school, he covered our bills. Now it was my turn. First month, he was motivated, updating his resume, going to interviews, and networking with old coworkers. By month 3, he discovered online auctions and vintage toy collecting. Started small with $20 action figures, he said, would triple in value. I didn't mind because he needed something to keep him busy between applications. Then the packages started arriving daily. $50 limited editions, $100 rare finds, $200 mint condition sets still in plastic. I asked him where the money came from and he said he was selling stuff from storage. We didn't have anything in storage. Turns out he'd been transferring money from our joint savings to his personal PayPal. When I confronted him, he said it was an investment, that these toys would be worth thousands in a few years. I was pulling 12-hour shifts while he sat home bidding on plastic robots. I separated our finances and gave him an allowance for gas and food while job hunting. That lasted exactly 1 week before my credit card statement showed a $900 charge to some collectible shop in Japan. He'd memorized my card number. When I confronted him again, he said I was being controlling and unsupportive of his business venture. His business venture of buying toys while I paid for everything. I canceled that card and got a new one I kept hidden. 2 weeks later, my mom called asking why I needed $3,000. Brandon had called her crying about how we were behind on bills because my hours got cut, and could she loan us money just this once? My hours were actually increased to overtime. Mom had already sent him the money through Zelle. He bought a limited edition train set that was apparently signed by some designer I'd never heard of. My sister Rita worked at our bank and pulled some strings to trace where all the money was going. It turns out Brandon had spent $14,000 in 4 months on toys. $14,000. We'd been saving that for a down payment on a house. Meanwhile, he'd gone to exactly 2 job interviews, both at places he knew wouldn't hire him because he showed up in sweats. Rita helped me open a new account at a different bank and rewrote my direct deposit. Brandon didn't notice for 3 weeks because he was too busy arranging his collection in our spare room, which now looked like a toy store exploded. He'd installed special shelving and lighting, and even had a temperature control system he bought for $800 to preserve the plastic. When rent was due and the joint account was empty, he finally noticed. Came storming into the bedroom at midnight after my shift, demanding to know where his investment fund went. I told him that was my money for bills. He said we were partners and partners share everything. I asked him when he'd last contributed to that partnership. He said his collection was worth at least $30,000 now. I asked him to sell some for rent. He said I didn't understand collectible markets and the value would only go up. That's when I knew what had to do. Brandon went to a toy convention 2 hours away, said it was a networking opportunity for serious collectors. While he was gone, I called every single person on his collector forums, posted in all his groups that I had an emergency sale. Husband's entire collection had to go immediately. 50% off market value. Cash only. Pick up today. His collector friends were vultures. They showed up within hours with cash in hand. His prized train set sold for $1,500 to some dealer who said Brandon had outbid him for it. The vintage robots gone for $2,000 to a guy who drove 3 hours when he heard about the sale. Every single piece. By the time Brandon got home, I'd made $21,000 cash. He walked into his toy room and just stood there staring at the empty shelves. Started screaming about how I'd robbed him, how those were priceless investments. I handed him an envelope with first and last month's rent for a studio apartment across town and a printed list of job openings. Told him he had 2 hours to pack his clothes. He called the police trying to report a theft. Officer showed up. I explained the situation, showed him my bank statements and pay stubs. Officer told Brandon that marital assets can be sold by either spouse and maybe he should focus on finding employment. Brandon's mom called me every name in the book. I sent her copies of the bank statements showing what her unemployed son had spent on toys while I worked overtime to keep us afloat. She went quiet really fast. Brandon tried to contest the divorce, saying I destroyed his business assets. The judge asked for his business license, tax records, and any proof of income from this toy business. Full story on channel. Link below.